Alrighty. Hello, my name is Chris. I am your instructor for the professional capstone class. I am recording a Zoom meeting so that you guys have some idea of what to do initially this first week or two in the class and answer many of your questions. Like the announcement said, and the syllabus says with your objectives, this class is very intensive. It will be the most intensive class you have had at Grand Canyon. It is the capstone class that involves a practicum. Some of you will do it virtual. We'll get into this a little bit more. Some of you will do it live. It just depends on the guidelines through your area for your practicum. There's been a lot of understandings due to the fact that you're restricted in the virtual, and a lot of the paperwork in this course has not been adjusted to this COVID situation yet. You have to kind of twist it to fit, and I will help you with that. With that being said, there are some tools that I will show you that I've already placed an announcement that give you exactly what to do. So what I'm going to tell you right now is do not overthink this. Do not worry. Do not fret. If you turn in everything, and I mean everything, every week and get your hours approved by the end of the class, you will pass. With that being said, though, you must turn in everything every week. So be prepared to set a time aside for you to make sure that these things are done. Some of them may seem redundant. Some of them may seem pointless, but there is a reason for it. And I will explain a lot of it on the way through this Zoom presentation. The view you will see here is the view of the instructors Loud Cloud, which is the learning system that Grand Canyon used. So when you hear Loud Cloud, that's what I mean. The most important thing is the path and course materials. This has all of the information that you guys will need, and I will go over some specifics here. The objectives for the clinical practice you have to review. Requirements for successful completion, a passing letter grade, and you must have everything turned in. Even those that are no point value have to be turned in. We'll talk about the practice experience hours. Students are required to complete 100 clinical practice hours, and that involves also virtual or non-virtual. Sorry, excuse me, allergies. Out of the 100 direct clinical hours, 50 are to be community and 50 are to be leadership. What that means is the leadership is pretty easy to determine. If you're doing something with policy, if you're doing anything with management, if you're doing anything with organization, the community hours are the hours that your tasks are associated with actual patient or community or whatever engagement you have with your actual project. Now, if you're virtual, you can kind of divide it up half and half. You're going to be working on the policy part at some point during the week, and then you're going to be working on the initiation part some of the week. And so we're not going to get picky. We're not going to come back and say, hey, was that really community or was it leadership? I want you to divide it in half as best you can. Unless you spend all day working on policy, then all the hours would go to that. But I will show you here in a little bit how you can divide that up. All right. So the 100 hours are actually your clinical practice hours. The 25 indirect are what you will spend working, uploading stuff to the Loud Cloud, to actually the learning system. Here's some expectations from the AACN. I just want you to read these over. It kind of explains the ISP here, and this would be a good time for me to go in and explain that piece of paper. The individual success plan is required in all BSN courses, in any place that you take it. And the reason it's required is because it's associated with some modalities and competencies that deal with advanced nursing degrees, like the BSN. You have to associate every test that you do with a competency and a domain. And prior to this last class, you as students had to fill these out on your own. I actually obtained a copy of an ISP that was filled out for you. And so what it has is in here, this kind of gives you, this section right here gives you a summary of what the assignments are that are graded and when they take place. And then down here, it lists the objectives for you. It already has filled in the competencies, and it already has filled in the critical competencies for each assignment. We used to have students do this. We don't anymore. All you need to do is put in the due date. So when you look at capstone project topic selection and approval, you know that that has to be done in topic 2, which is week 2. Look up the date, the due dates for topic 2, and put the due dates here. When you complete it, put the date you completed it. That's all you have to do. Do not overthink this. It's very simple. I do not do this for you because each class is different. It's one less thing. I have already 3 classes of this to teach, which has about 20 students in each class. So I have a lot of paperwork to follow up, but this is something that you guys are required to do. This is what is due this week. Just put your due dates in. I've already filled in the competencies and the critical competencies for you. And then you will have your preceptor sign it upon completion. So this first week, I just want to make sure that you've understood it and that you put your due dates in and you'll upload it. And here are the competencies. So you need to read these over because every college has to have documentation of these competencies met and how you met them on the books in each student's file for you to graduate. So this explains the ISP. And then at the end, you will upload that. Now here's a little breakdown from the AACN on direct care and indirect care. Essentially, direct care refers to activities provided at the point of care. So that would be anytime you're working directly on something that deals with your project, that deals directly with the initiation of that. All right, indirect care refers to decisions, actions, or interventions that are provided. So the uploading of these documents to complete this course. All right. At the end of the class, you have this indirect clinical experience hour form that you will fill in, but I want you to be aware of it now. And this, I attached an announcement also with these papers. So this tells you that you will create a list of possible topics. That's 1 hour you get for that. Complete a literature review for evidence-based. You get 6 hours for that. Choose one of the following options for nursing practice intervention. So you'll discuss this and you'll talk about it. You get 1 hour for that. Review cultural beliefs, health literacy, that's 1 hour. Write a list of objectives, 1 hour. So on and so forth. And that's where your 25 hours come from. All right. So you can figure out in what week these are taking place and add that in your timeline if you want to. All right, so this is where at the end you will get your indirect hours. This is the guide, the explanation on what exactly pertains to indirect hours. We'll talk a little bit more about direct hours here in a bit. This is something else that is required of BSM programs to determine how much time you spent directly working on a project or indirectly working on a project. It is a requirement. All right. I want you to read over these white papers. It's kind of just the mission and expectation. It gives you some background experiences. This, of course, was written prior to the virtual. So essentially, you can take some of these and transition them into the virtual experience as best you can. All right, you're still going to be working with your preceptor. You're going to be collaborating with them. She's going to be collaborating with the nursing staff, or in what situation, things like that. So you just kind of have to work around it as best you can to make it fit your experience. When we talked about direct care, this guideline here, the deliverable tables, really breaks that down week by week. So you already have a form that helps you with indirect care. Here is a form that's going to help you with direct care. This also includes the indirect. So week by week, you'll know, you'll assess, you'll submit, and this is how many hours that works for. You're going to have a review, and then there'll be indirect hours. You're going to complete this and submit it. This deliverable table should be your guide, and you should follow it week by week by week. This explains everything. Tells you exactly what you're supposed to do and get done. And I would keep it, print it out, and cross it off when you get it done. Also set it up with your ISP. Have your ISP available and fill in when you accomplish the task there. Now, when you enter these direct hours each week, because typically you have to have 100, and so 10 weeks would be 10 each. What I suggest students to do is to split the hours 50 community and 50 leadership, because it is about 50-50. You're going to be working on the policy, the procedure, management issues, and then the other half is the actual initiation, implementation part. Even if you're virtual, I want you to split those in half. All right. So let's look at this a little bit. This is what it's going to look like in LOPE's activity tracker. And I want to bring that up. This LOPE's activity tracker is something that you need to go sign in and look at. And this tells you exactly how to do that. Oh, right now, my internet is slowing down. So this is where the information is, how to go in, get signed up, get into LOPE's activity tracker, all right? You just need to follow the instructions, all right? And then once you're in there, I'm gonna exit out of here. This right here is an example of what it will look like when you put your hours in. And some people, and I've attached this too in that announcement. So week 1, preceptor student faculty video conference. Through a needs assessment, identify a clinical practice or problem. So she had an hour for that. She divided it half in community, half leadership, and then the 9 hours was 4.5 and 4.5. So there you go. There's 10 hours right there. All right. And then week 2, she worked 4.5 hours with community doing this, an hour community and leadership on that. She searched for literature. So you just kind of have a guide on how to fill this out. This kind of maps you through the 10 weeks. Yours may be more detailed. They do look at those. They do go back. And they do want to know a little bit more detail. So just be sure that you explain every little thing when you put things in your LOPE's activity tracker. Now, I put all those papers on this ISP deliverable table, locus activity tracker, and indirect form here. So those are, this is a very important announcement. Do not overlook this one. This will help you. All right. So I want to pull up some other papers that are in the path under course resources, course materials. Capstone, practicum, assessments. This just gives you a little bit more detail about exactly what you have to keep an eye on. Clinical practice experience roles, so preceptors in the practice setting. These are their requirements. These are some of the settings that you can be in. Here's some experiences that you are allowed. Student faculty meetings are really important. We want to have a pre-conference, a mid-conference, and a post-conference. I will be scheduling doodle, I believe, meetings this week and next week. I can have them in the evenings, weekends, whatever. Sometimes I wait until we get this first week over with and I do them the second week. So I'm pretty relaxed on this, and there's a lot of leeway. And sometimes they're just three-way phone calls. I really try to avoid setting up Zoom just because of the technology issue. We don't really need to be face-to-face. It's more just a three-way conference. Works best. But keep an eye out for that. Don't worry about that right now. We'll go over this a little bit more. I'll have an announcement about the meeting, so keep an eye on that. I might also schedule a Zoom meeting for the class so that if we have any other questions, we can kind of all get together and see how it's going. All right, so just announcements, check almost every day if you can. There's guidelines for the undergraduate field experience. That's actually in a separate handout, which I will go over here. Here's a link to the library so you guys can research information, something about evaluating websites, APA manual. This class started before October 5th, so we will not be using APA 7. We're going to be using APA 6. And I don't care what your instructors have required in the past. You have to use APA. This is your capstone project. Things have to be cited within the essay. You have to have the correct title page. You have to have the correct reference. Avoid quotations as much as you can. I'm currently getting my DMP and they're not even allowing quotes in any essays. I will allow quotes, but the whole essay cannot be a quote. You have to cite when you paraphrase. And I've heard from 1 or 2 students over the years where my instructor did not require me to have any citations. No. If you paraphrase, you're still using somebody else's information. You have to give them credit. Just because you paraphrase doesn't mean it's yours. You just reworked somebody else's idea, so it has to be cited. So definitely I will set you up with an APA template for the basic essays that are required and a style guide that helps you with how to set the paper up, how to cite, how to reference, and I want you to look over those. And then when the final capstone comes, I will actually give you a template for that. So you have your headings in place and everything already so that there's no confusion as to how to set up the paper. Clinical practice experience evaluation tools. So these are for you to fill out towards the end. All right. So this is what you as a student will fill out. Now, I need evaluations from your preceptor, and you will enter your hours into LOPE's activity tracker. Your preceptor will be getting an email welcoming her or he as a preceptor, and it will say the responsibilities. It will also give them access to what's called Thunder Time. Thunder Time is how they go in and approve your hours. In Thunder Time, there are 2 evaluations that they will download, fill out, send to you, and then you will upload during week 5, I believe, and then at the end. The reason it comes from the preceptor is because then I know the preceptor generated the document. In the past, students, not a lot, but a few, evaluated themselves, sent it to the preceptor to sign. So we need to have, of course, academic integrity, and that is why the evaluations come from the preceptor, not the preceptee. Now, when you're in your LOPES activity tracker and you have to enter your hours, there is a page, and let me show you here. That will generate a PDF. It says up here, generate PDF. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment because I want to pull up something. But you have to click on the generate a PDF and it will give you a summary of your hours. And then that must be uploaded into LOPES activity tracker. And I'm just going to show you a copy of it right now. So when you go in to upload, sharing my screen here again. Share screen. Okay, this is what that PDF looks like. It gives me a summary of hours pending, 10 community, 10 leadership, and how much have been approved. Do not wait to upload this when your preceptor hasn't approved them yet. I still want you to upload it, whether she or he's approved it or not. But you will see when you're in LOPES activity tracker on the upper left hand, there's a generated PDF. This is the PDF I need you to upload weekly, must be, so that I can verify this. And let me tell you, last course, 2 students were very lax about entering their hours and they would have received fails if I hadn't have chased them down to ensure that they put their hours in so their preceptor could upload it. If you have any technical issues getting into LOPES activity tracker yourself, or your preceptor can't get into Thunder Time, I have nothing to do with it. You need to send me a note though, and you need to have them call IT right away. Because if there's no documentation stating that you had an IT issue, then it won't be excused. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a requirement. You have to have these hours. Schools get audited, and it's just a requirement that you have to have these hours. So I cannot, say we can't have you doing that. So, all right, I'm going to go back to my other screen here. All right. So all right, so now I want to show you just some particulars. So in week 1, you have a lot of tasks to do. Okay, You upload your individual success plan. So I already gave you the form to fill in. You just need to put the dates. You'll need to upload that pre-conference form. It's right here. So you will sign it and your preceptor will sign it. Keep a copy of it because there's also a mid and end. All right. She'll just sign the second part, but you can wait until after we have that meeting. That's fine. I'm going to go back into your class. All right. Also this week, the reflective journal, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I want to touch on capstone project topics. So work with your preceptor to perform a needs assessment with just as what's going on in my class, what do I need to do, what would be good for the community, what would be good for the patients. Compile a list of 5 possible topics. Now, more than likely, you already have an idea of what you want to do, but I just need you to write down a list of some topics and then you'll focus on one. And then this reflective journal, each week you have a topic that you should cover. Maybe you'll cover 1 or 2 of them, maybe you'll cover 3 of them, but over the course of 10 weeks, you need to address these issues. So if you're doing virtual, have a ethical conversation, or you'll talk about population health concerns and you cover them. So just make sure that over your 10 weeks, you address these issues because these are very important as a BSN nurse to deal with these subjects as you do your practice. And also, please don't forget to put a personal reflection in there. That's very, very important. All right, so each week, and it doesn't matter if you upload only 1 week at a time or you just keep a running paper and you like in week 1, you upload week 1, in week 2, you have paper that has 1 and 2 on it. It doesn't matter. All right, make sure you answer the DQs, and I posted an announcement of participation. I need you to do more than, hey, I really agree with your post and restate what's been said. I need you to put more insight in there or tell a personal story. I am really insistent on the fact that it have at least 75 words. Paragraph or 2, good. I don't like to have to be so subjective and him and ha between, is it substantive, is it not? Make it obvious to me that you have insights on this topic. Don't waste your time responding to another student in an agreement statement. Make it substantive. It really carries on good conversation. We do a lot of networking in this class, like you have in your past classes in Grand Canyon. The discussion panels are sometimes where we learn a lot from each other, where most of the learning takes place, especially about our projects, because we're going to be doing this project over time. You start writing the intro, and then you'll address the body of the paper when we do the reason for it, setting, the literature evaluation, the implementation, the evaluation of and the data collection. And then at the end, you take bits and pieces from all the previous essays you've written and you put it together. So you will be writing your final capstone essay week by week by week by week, and it'll build upon it. And then you will summarize it. You won't just copy and paste what you already have, but you'll have the organization, the outline already, and you'll put it together. So it makes it very easy at the end to get that done. Once again, I cannot stress this enough. Make sure that you each week stay up on all those assignments that are due. It's going to be busy. I cannot explain it enough. Turn everything in. Some of the tasks do not have points, but they're requirements. So don't let that convince you to put it off. Stay on top of it, because by the end, you're going to wish you had. And at the end of the last week, there's a lot of stuff to turn in. So stay on top of it. I'm going to try and get the meeting scheduled, one-on-one pre-conference meetings here, doodle time set up. Just look for an announcement, and also have a one-on-one. We'll have a big Zoom class meeting also. All righty? All right. You can text me and you can email me, and I have my name and my phone number in the announcement on how to get a hold of me. If you would like to call, you need to text me first with all the spam calls and robocalls out there. I don't always answer my phone when I don't know the number. So text me, introduce yourself, and we'll set up a time to talk. My last final words are, do not panic, do not fret. As far as virtual, I know it's going to be hard, but you just work on your project, have conferences with your preceptor. You can count those hours on the phone. It has to be at least an hour a week. I would sometimes, if you talk for 20 minutes, count it as an hour. If you talk for 10 minutes, count it as an hour. But most of the hours comes from you working on your project. So you just dedicate 10 hours a week working on your project, somehow getting it done, and that will be your hours. All right? Virtual, we have very, very understanding requirements. We get it's difficult, but just take it week by week. Do not fret, do not panic. I'm not going to let anybody flunk unless they totally ignore my emails, requests, announcements. Don't turn anything in. That's the only way you're going to flunk, is if you don't turn anything in. But I promise you, you will all pass as long as you get stuff done. And my announcements will help along the way. I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. All right? Just keep up with stuff. I look forward to talking with each one of you and your preceptors soon.